In this video, we're going to start our low poly creation process. The first thing I'm going to do is go and set my project to my Mando Maya project. Go to Open Scene and find my most recent iteration. Okay, as this opens, here we go. My first thing I need to look at is I need to figure out which parts are flexible, like cloth or flimsy plastics, leather armor, shirts, anything like that. What will bend with the character when it animates, and what things are solid pieces of like armor, chest plates, pouches. Uh, we're going to talk about how this relates to this character here. So this chest plate that I have selected here is an interesting case because you can see the crotch armor or the pelvis armor down here also extends down from the chest. But as I look at this, I need to figure out how this guy is going to bend at the waist. And the obvious answer is right here at the belt line. But if this pelvis armor right here is part of my chest armor, then my pelvis needs to be able to be flexible and my chest needs to be a solid piece of metal. So what I'm actually going to have to do is extract these meshes apart from one another because I want no deformation, no bends, just a solid, unflexible piece of armor for my chest. And I need this crotch armor to kind of be able to bend around at the waist and kind of at the thighs. So I'm going to have to separate that. That's the golden rule. That's why we do this step. That's why we look and see what parts will never move and what parts will. So you could have this chest or this shoulder armor right here. Just looking at it, it's obviously made of metal. And you could have your chest armor just kind of stuck right here on the character. And then let me change its pivot just to make my point. And then below it, our arm would move, right? Or, you could have the chest or the shoulder armor just stuck to the arm that follows the arm. But either way, whenever we animate, we don't want any of these verts to bend and make it look like it's made out of plastic or, it's flexible. This is metal. And the easiest way to achieve that is to make sure it's a separate mesh. All right. So I'm going to go in and select all the flexible parts of my character. Yep. And let's move my head up out of the way. I mean, definitely the face, hands, legs. And then might as well go ahead and figure out how to separate these. So go ahead and bring your gear original. I'm going to get the body hidden. Let's see. Let me put all my body parts. Body. There we go. So I've kind of hidden my body parts from my armor parts just to make getting to this part a little bit easier. I'm going to go in and invert select this belt and press H to hide it. And you can see that I have my low poly and my high poly selected right now. So we're going to select both of those. And then we're going to go up here to our components and go into component mode. And then we want to select face components. This will allow us to select the faces of both the high poly and the low poly mesh that we had selected earlier. And then we're going to go to edit mesh, extract. All right. I don't know if it did both or not. So that's a piece. All right. So I guess you can only extract one at a time. So I extracted one. Let's select the other one. And I'll know I have the other one selected because the whole model is selected. And I'll just press G to repeat that action. Now, both my high poly and low poly, if you don't believe me, there we go. They're now extracted. So I'm going to bring back my body. And I think at the end of the day, I'm going to combine this pelvis armor into like a leather insert on top of these pants. And of course, Control Shift H will bring back the last hidden thing, and the belt line will kind of break that up and make it look a little bit more, um, you know, believable. So I don't have to go in and model my own another belt on top as a texture. All right, so we got that done. So I don't have any other instances like that, so I hope you've checked out what parts are flexible. Solid pieces need to be unique meshes. So the next thing we're going to do is clean up the amount of work that we have to do here. So that means anything that's going to be mirror duplicated over as a unique mesh can just be deleted right now, because we're just going to duplicate, we're going to duplicate that arm, this shoulder, these gloves. So let's just get rid of that. All right. Now you may want to think, okay, well then let me go in and delete these faces right here. No, we're not deleting any faces. We're just deleting duplicate unique meshes. Okay. I'm going to get rid of these packs. And I'm deleting the high and the low. We're only going to need one version because at the end of the day, we're just going to duplicate it over. There we go. But notice I am leaving the legs on both sides, the helmet, and the head. Anything that you would have to mirror over and then merge verts for, leave it alone. All right? We're going to need that full mesh on both sides. All right, so now we can see what we actually have to make low poly right now. Everything else that's missing, we're going to duplicate. And next, just so you can get a better idea, let me go ahead and set that back to 0. Just so you can get a better idea of what parts belong to what, like which details are going to be one thing and another thing, separate pieces. We're going to do what we call exploding the model. And that means every unique separate mesh, we're going to move away from one another. All right. So the trick here is select all your meshes, low poly or high poly and original base meshes. Just select all the geometry in your scene and go to Modify, Freeze, Transformations, and Modify Center Pivot. All right, that'll make moving this stuff around a little bit easier. And we want to freeze all of our transformations in our channel box right here, because it'll make resetting their positions a little bit easier in the future. So what we're going to do is we're going to select both the original and high poly, and we're just going to start moving on one direction only. So don't just arbitrarily move. Let's just choose one axis. It can be back and forth, left and right, up or down. And we're just going to separate all unique models. And it might be a little bit tricky to get in and select all this stuff, but we're going to give it plenty of space. And right now, you really need to start asking the question of, you can even see right here. Let me go ahead and fix this. So this is my original. Let's see if I can place it on perfectly. We'll get it as close as we can. I want to set my pivot point to this, to a corner, and then snap it to the same corner. That way I can rotate it much more accurately. There we go. A little trick for you. All right, so that's my rocket pack moved away. Oh, looks like I forgot some of the detail of the rocket pack. Don't forget those small little kit bash details that we added. And you know what? I think they were right beside here. Let me just make sure that they... Okay. So that goes like this. I think these are more like right here. So be careful when you select things. Make sure you get all of that good stuff. I'm going to pull the jetpack there, the wing back some. I'm going to leave the chest where it's at. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to leave that as part of the chest plate. All right, let's grab the arm. I'm just going to kind of drag a box around the whole arm, and we'll just bring it out. And then by process of deselection, we'll deselect the arm. We'll just bring that out like that. I'm going to push this. Oh. Well, I want to grab these shoulder pads. You know what? This is going to make it more difficult. I'm going to grab the shoulder pads first because I only want to move stuff in one direction. It'll make reassembling the model a little bit easier later. So I'll pull these out to the left, like so. Let me just get the hand way out here. I'll get the hose. I went in and added a hose. Couldn't help myself. And then whatever this is, I might have to figure out a different solution for this. Probably there. So you know I'm just going in and trying to match this stuff back up. My originals and my high poly stuff, it might have got a little bit mismatched. So as you're exploding, go in and make sure that your original and your highs still line up on one another. It might just be a case, and I think I'll experience it in a second, where that you're just going to have to figure something else out for it. And there's going to be plenty of those cases, and we're going to tackle them one at a time. So you're going to notice all this stuff, even though I have floating PC geometry, I consider this eventually going to be a low poly unique mesh. All right. And we'll grab the belt next. Pull those out. Oh, you know what? I didn't want to bring the pelvis. Or those wings, I guess. Pelvis armor is going to be part of the pants when I bake it. We'll deselect that. Deselect the belt buckle. And we'll bring out the pouch. Alright, so this select the legs. So everything from the shoulder armor down. We're just going to pull down. Pull it down. Notice how I'm just doing my best to make sure I'm grabbing and deselecting everything. Alright, so this is the process of exploding our model. Alright. And I want to go in, and this is kind of a little trick. I'm going to drag my slider to the 10th frame right there. And I'm going to go in. Sorry. My mouse is going crazy, guys. I'm going to make sure there's no P's on here. Oh, goodness. Look what I forgot to do. I forgot to show my body layer. So don't fear if you forgot to bring something over. Just set its pivot point to snap to an obvious vertex, like at the tip of the sworn. And then when you bring it down, you can kind of snap it to the high poly tip of the horn. Something like that, and they should line up. So let's do that for the sleeve. Grab everything again and just do a center pivot. Modify center pivot. Same thing. I'm going to take an obvious point, like this little area right there. And we're just going to kind of attach it to the obvious corner right here. A little bit harder whenever it's more organic, but it's close enough. And for this one, I think I'm just going to eye it. It's going to need a lot of work anyway. You can see they don't match up at all, which we'll tackle. All right. All right, so make sure there's no P's and it's just V's in your layers. And we're on our 10th frame. We're going to select everything in our scene. Just drag a box around everything. And press the S key. You can see we got a little frame thing right here, a little red line. And that'll keep our point. If we want to reassemble our character, then just go in to your outliner here. And it already says 0, but just re-put 0 in on everything and it all snaps back into place. But if we touch our slider past frame 10, we see now it kind of animates back. And if you want to keyframe it all together, so just put 0 on everything in your outliner, and then you can even keyframe. You know what? I don't know why I did that. But just one keyframe is what we need. We're going to work with it like this, with all this stuff separated. All right, next I'm going to go through and touch up some of the high poly stuff that I thought was looking weird. So I'm going to hide my original body and my original gear. And we're just going to go in and re-smooth things. 3 and 3. And the chest armor right here has a weird bump right there. So we're going to fix that up. We're going to do a few things to this chest. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect this edge. I don't want it to flow around here. I want it to flow around the side here. All right. I feel also like I need another edge loop right here. And we'll pull it up a little bit. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect this support edge loop with my multi-cut tool. So I'm going to kind of make it follow this edge instead. Oh, I see what's going on. So this one kind of doubles at the support edge loop down here. I don't like that. We're going to grab the edges that are making this quasi support edge loop, and that'll be good enough. Just the ones right here that kind of are creating that support edge. And I'm going to use my slide edge tool and middle mouse click and drag it away. All right. And I'm going to use this. We'll just leave that vertex where it is for now, and I'll go back in and smooth it. All right, so continuing with my multi-cut, you can see I started from here, made this triangle, and then I'm going to come down here, and we'll draw in our own support edge loop. Go into wireframe, all the way back, and up a little bit. I'm not going to go the rest of the way, because we're not going to see the back side of this chest armor. All right, so we're getting there, but what we have now is this triangle right here. I wanted to get rid of this edge loop, so I'll delete that one. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and cut this top part in half because I'm going to have to reduplicate it. Okay, I'll probably go in and extract it in a second, make it easier to duplicate. All right, so I'll delete this edge loop. So now I have this triangle right here, which is easy to solve. I'm just going to collapse those vertices by merging them together. And now I've turned a weird support edge loop situation into one that I want. And you can see it's not following a good direction. So I'm going to go in. I can see the curvature that it wants to go. So we're going to give it that. All right. And these verts up here are being weird. So I'm going to try to put them in a better place. And okay, so they're off a little bit right there too. See how they follow in a certain trend? There we go. It goes and then sweeps around. And just by moving that a little bit and getting rid of that support edge loop, you now don't have that crease that we saw earlier. Now, I saw earlier that, let's put my legs back for a second. So I'm going to zero out my legs. And look at that. My jetpack was hiding the fact that my chest armor wasn't exactly doing what it was supposed to. It's kind of cutting into the guy right here. I'm going to turn my mirror symmetry on. And what I need to do is come in and reorient how these verts are cutting in to my Mando. So we'll just pull them out. Make sure that they look okay, curving around. And I think I'm going to grab these as well. Be careful that you don't select anything other than what you just want. So wireframe to clean up my selection. We'll pull this out. And notice how I'm kind of just moving it in one axis at a time. And I think I'm going to pull out these as well. And pull this out. Man, my waist got really shrunk. All right. So that'll sit on my legs a little bit better. I'll click onto my 10th frame and my legs snap back into their exploded state. Oh, looks like I forgot to bring these over as well. All right. Looking good. Except now I got to mirror duplicate the shoulder strap over. So I think I'm just going to select these faces and do an edit mesh extract. And now my shoulder strap is its own thing. I need to go in and clean up, relax this. I think I'll do it after I duplicate. And you can see it's already centered. So we'll just do a -1 mirror duplication. Select them. I'm going to shift right click, combine. And then let's merge these verts right here. So my low tolerance, I can just sloppily grab whatever verts I want. And only the verts sitting on top of each other get merged. Now let's go into my mesh tools, sculpting tools, and let's grab my relax tool. Hold down B and shrink our brush. Let's turn symmetry back on. And let's just paint out some of the weird topology going on. Be careful not to hit any of your support edge loops. See how that destroys your form? But the organic surface here, that's prime for relaxing. And now when I look at it, no more crease or dent at the little collarbone area. And I believe it's even more nice and round and organic. All right, cool. Let's look at my helmet next. I added some holes. I'll show you how I did that in a second. But first, I kind of want to look at my horn piece right here. It's not as, it's a little soft. I don't feel like a nicely crafted, sharp helmet like this would have some soft details. So I think what I'm going to do is use the multi-cut tool to draw my own support edge loop. Because if I just did this, look, we get all this all the way up. You know what? It might be easier to go in and just tie it off as well. But I'm going to show another method of doing a support edge loop, and that's just drawing one yourself with the multi-cut tool. It allows you to start from your own tied off position, which was this little area right there. I created this triangle. It might look okay. Let's see what happens. So what I'm trying to do is get something that goes right down this avenue here. See how I'm just following where I want it to be nice and sharp. And then I'm going to terminate it right there on the bottom. And that looks way more sharp, doesn't it, than this little flat piece right there. So let's do the same thing. You know what? Why don't we just insert an edge loop, and then we'll just merge and do the tie off trick. Oh, if I wouldn't have klutz. So let's merge it. We'll tie it off right there, and we'll look down on the bottom here. It looks like this is our edge loop. But you see, doing the edge loop, it kind of follows this weird geometry right there. I'm not exactly sure how that got to be like that in the first place. I'm going to delete this and fix this. So I'm going to snap in, snap that way, snap into the top vert. So that's weird. It might be the mirror duplication. I'm probably going to have to mirror dupe somewhere along the way. Let me pause for a second. So I really don't know what these support edge loops are trying to accomplish. So I'm going to just delete them. Look at my form to make sure everything still looks good. That's weird. All right. Look at that. They just got all messed up here, didn't they? What? So if you have to go in and mess with any of the geometry, I was wondering why the heck things weren't working right. Well, I think it's because I keyframed it. So if you're finding that that's happening, go to your select your object in object mode, and you can just delete the keyframe for right now by right-clicking next to it. Make sure your cursor is on the left side of the keyframe. Right-click and delete. I think that's what was happening, but all right. So just the geometry is really weird here. But you know what? It's not really affecting the shape, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so touching this stuff up. Insert edge loop right down there. We'll snap. And then, man, this kind of just found a weird place. I'll snap it right there, I guess. See, it comes down, and then does a pretty hard turn. So I'm just going to merge. Only the verts that sit on top of each other will be merged with that low distance threshold. And then I can go in and delete these other edge loops. And I guess that edge loop just naturally terminated down there. All right. That's some sharper metal right there. That's what I like. And then I'm actually going to I'm going to steal one of these buttons right here and place on the side of the helmet. So I'm just going to snap and then zoom in with the F key. I deleted on accident. Yeah, there we go. And I'm just going to position some buttons on this helmet. rotate them as need be. All right. And modify freeze, reset transformations. Control D to duplicate. And with these newly duplicated ones, I can do a -1. And now you see I got buttons on both sides. I'll just give a little bit more visual interest to the helmet. Next, why don't we just go ahead and put some holes into the helmet where I need it. So I'm going to position my helmet back here. So you can see how everything's kind of already lined up with the holes I have, but I have just one more helmet hole I want to make. And these holes are going to, you can see it's a little weird, but these holes are just going to be baked into our high poly. It's not going to have any bearing on our low poly. So I'm going to select these faces, extrude them inwards, and left shift and right click and circularize components. And then just select them from there. You can see that it takes all the faces I have and makes a perfect circle out of them. So I'm going to look straight on to my face so I can use this outside wheel. And then we'll extrude in. I'm going to scale in, get that forced perspective going. And we'll use some support edge loops around there and there. Actually, we'll get rid of that one. And now I'm just going to shape up this hole to fit the best it can. So I'm going to, let's see, just lock down my body and unlock my gear. So I can quit selecting those faces that I don't want. We're going to select those faces I extruded inwards. And then I'm going to grow my selection with shift and greater than. It's next to the greater than and less than keys are next to the M key on the keyboard. And then I'm just going to try to match the shape of the hole. And then I'm going to kind of look at it from the profile side and use my outside wheel that rotates in accordance to the way we're looking at something, and just try to get it flatter in the shape of my helmet. All right, and I think I want to scale it up so the person can actually see the hole. There we go. And let's bring back my original gear, and we'll just move my helmet back up to where I want it. All right. For this, let's get rid of the original body. Not get rid of it, but hide it. There's a few things on this sculpt that I want to go in and smooth out. So I'm just examining, and I can notice there's a bunch of weird bumpiness around the ear that I don't want to translate into my bake. So I just want to go in and smooth tool mirror symmetry X. So we get the mirror thing going on. And I'm just going to, let's see, let's get a lot of strength on that. Just tap, tap, tap the smoothing. Trying to get, with the smooth tool, almost shrink the volume around my ears. It's getting rid of that bumpiness a little bit better. And I think I'm going to grab my pinch tool and pinch some of the skin around the horns. I don't like that at all, actually. Well, I'm going to give it one more try. I'm just going to pinch kind of away from the horns. I didn't like how it was turning the horns into. There we go. No, cancel that operation. That's something that I would have to do in something like Mudbox. So don't get, I guess that's a lesson in of itself. Don't get caught up in the superficial detail on this character model, like wrinkles and pinched skin. We did do a little bit of sculpting on the arms for folds. It wasn't that detailed and nuanced as skin folds. We're going to just try to keep it a little bit basic and work only inside of Maya. I think the last thing I want to do is go around and kind of mess up. Right now, it kind of looks like these are plastic, and it's really just kind of thicker leather. And we might be able to tell that with our texture, but I think if we go in and regulate kind of how this sleeve thing is working, um, just get a little bit of relaxation on here. And since this is no mirror geometry, we'll just go in and, oh yeah, my computer's chugging because of this. I might have smoothed this sleeve too much. Alright, let me try another tool, maybe the smooth tool. And then I'll go in with the grab tool and kind of move it around a little bit. It's a little blurry on my screen because there's so much information going on. The wireframe is... Alright, a little bit softer touch there. And then let's just grab my grab tool. And see how this gives it the appearance of something a little bit more cloth-like. Just a little bit of irregularity. You know, this isn't machine crafted metal, right? This is kind of like a leather fireproof arm. I think I'm going to do the same thing down here on my legs as well. And I will do a mirror symmetry on the legs. So I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit to get it a little bit less sharp. I know I said we were doing low poly, but knowing how your high polys are going to look on your low polys is just kind of a ongoing process as you work on the low poly sometimes. Let's see, and then just grab my grab tool. And we're probably going to mirror duplicate the legs in the end anyway. But when we bake, we want it to be kind of a solid mesh, so it bakes across that line of symmetry a little bit more evenly. And I'll just increase my brush. We'll smooth it out a little bit. Increase my brush size, and let's just give it a few areas of extreme. There we go. All right, nice. All right, so now that we've got our attack plan, we've differentiated between what parts of the mesh you're going to have to deform, We've exploded all of our models to kind of figure out how much floating geometry we have that'll be assembled together. This guy has a lot of detail going on. Um, you know, even though, these are small things, they still float, inside of my glove. So they're going to have to get their own baking area free from anything else. And it'll be easier just to kind of work on them one by one.